I'm Gab, he's Jules, back from Morocco, and it's blue skies over West London. I think bluer still over Anfield. We're going to get to that game, although a lot of other stuff happened. The big 3-0 winning in La Liga, Inter back on top in Serie A, the big Paris Saint-Germain, Lyon, John Texter. Oh, so close. But we'll get to that later. But let's start here, and let's start with the obvious question. Liverpool are 11 points clear of Arsenal, who do have a game in hand, and they do have the head-to-head at Anfield. Liverpool have 11 games left to play this season. Arsenal obviously have 12. The Gab rule says that when the number of points is greater than the number of remaining games, you will probably win the title. There are some riders on it, like the head-to-head, which Arsenal do have. So I will ask you now, are you ready to crown Liverpool?
Yeah, I don't think there's a way back for Arsenal, who have less goal difference, by the way. Plus,
I don't believe in goal difference.
Yeah, but it counts at the end if they finish level. But nobody's going to finish level with Liverpool. They've been in a league of their own pretty much from the start of the season. They've been way too good for the rest of the league. That hasn't been great, really. We said before it's not a classic season because outside of Liverpool, the rest haven't been always great. It's not a dig at Liverpool or dissing them. We don't take anything away from them and how great they've been. It's just been too easy. And this game on Sunday was too easy for them. Way too easy. They were too much in control for City.
So I take on board what you say. I am not ready to crown them yet because if Arsenal win their game in hand, and I know this takes a big leap of faith, if Arsenal win at Anfield, then the question becomes, can Arsenal make up 5 points in 10 games? I appreciate it's extremely unlikely, especially with the best on earth Kai Havertz out, as well as that Bukayo Saka fella.
Especially how late that game is, because by then they might
be
the
third to last game of the season.
So they might be more than 9 points and it's be over.
But it's not impossible. Okay, so that's why I will wait a week or two to crown him. But yes, it's all pointing in that direction. And I've said how impressed I've been with Arne Slot this season. I've been impressed on him on the macro level. And just to remind you, this is a guy who has never worked outside of Holland. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is replacing a legend. This is a guy who reinvented Ryan Gravenberch as a central midfielder. A 22-year-old who, let's face it, really hadn't, was promising, but really hadn't achieved much in his first season at Liverpool. A guy who's changed not just the system to 4-2-3-1, but the style of play as well, making them a bit more patient, a bit more intermittent, but still having the same intensity when they do press. Moved away from Klopp stylistically, no question about it. Done all this after a transfer summer where his only signing was my boy Federico Chiesa, who played all of 28 minutes this season in the league.
Yeah.
And he did it with 3 of his 4 best players, all free agents to be. That is an achievement for the ages, whatever happens. But then on the micro level, Jules, you were at this game. He changed the system, right? You've got 2, I thought, subpar performances in the last 2 games in the draws that they had. And he almost creates like a box midfield with Szoboszlai and Jones, split strikers out wide, Diaz and Salah. And it works. You've shielded the back 4. You've got the guy coming across to help out Alexander-Arnold, who got roasted time and again by Doku, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And in the end, you limit Man City, for all their 66% sterile possession, to an XG of just 0.65 on 66% possession. I mean, he outcoached Pep,
He outsmarted him completely. I mean, the Pep 4-1-5 system was suicidal. I mean, as soon as we saw the lineup, we were like... And by then, we got the lineup before you could even announce it because of the embargo on it. And we were like, why would Pep do that? Why just the Nico Gonzalez there and then De Bruyne and Foden and Doku and Savinho and Marmoush? It didn't make sense to play against a team like Liverpool with that system from a City point of view. It didn't make any sense. And to be fair, they were second best by far. And you're right, the 4-2-4 from Liverpool worked so great, so well, so narrow at times. And even when Doku roasted Trent or when Savinho, when Robertson, they could not create anything really. And I just think it was so comfortable for Liverpool from start to finish in this game. Salah was outstanding, even better watching him live than watching him on television. And just full control from start to finish. That second half, there was no game really.
Obviously there are mitigating factors. No John Stones, no Erling Haaland. But I don't think they explain this sort of performance. And I think what's really interesting to me is that Pep is at the stage now where he's trying to find different solutions, different approaches, bringing back Doku. We saw him play differently in midweek against Real Madrid, but they're not working. All right, Jules, let's stick with this City theme because at one point I'm looking at the City defense, and it's Rico Lewis, Nathan Ake, Husanov, and then Josko Gvardiol, fine, right? And I see Nico in front of them, and I'm thinking, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to do? And I go back to the broader City piece. I understand for 2 seasons, they made a lot of money, and kind of stuck with some of their veteran players. But somebody decided to bring these guys in, and I understand, or keep some of these guys around, like Nathan Ake. And I understand about building for the future. I understand about injuries. I understand all this stuff. But is this on Cheeky Begiristain, the soon-to-be departing? Is it on Pep? Because when it comes to team building, I see that at the back. I see Haaland, and then Alvarez leaves, and then you don't replace him for 6 months. And then you replace him with Marmoush with all the concerns that there are. And obviously Marmoush played in the front two, is not a Haaland-type player, which means when you play all the time with Haaland and then Haaland's not there, you have to change the way you play. How do we explain this?
No, we talked about it already before. Like, those feels like they were there for the future, and if everybody is fit, Marmoush doesn't start probably. Kusanov doesn't start. Vitor Reis doesn't start. Okay, Nico maybe is the only one. But then if Rodri is fit, Nico doesn't start either. So if everybody's fit...
Yeah, but sorry. There's this everybody's fit thing, okay? City won a treble a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, right? Rodri played a bazillion games. Pep likes to change and mix and match his players. So this idea of a first 11, this idea of everybody's fit, doesn't really apply to Pep, because certainly at City, we've seen him. He's almost always had that squad where he's used a core 16, 17 players.
Yeah, but some players are still guaranteed to start.
No, I'm not disputing that. But if in that 16, 17 players, right, you go into the season with a bunch of guys who at this stage is pretty obvious he really doesn't trust, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's, Calvin Phillips was the guy from the past, but, and there is an alternative to Erling Haaland. I don't understand what... I think somebody needs to give an explanation, and it can't be Pep all the time. Yeah. I think for all this stuff, I know City are seen as like, the dark arts of messaging, especially to do with financial fair play issues, but also in general, they have these very aggressive press officers and PR people who go and they spin lines. It's almost like Blake Lively and Baldoni at this stage, right? Yeah. The PR battle that these guys... Somebody needs to go out and say, what is the footballing logic behind this? Because it can't just be Pep on his own that has to go and explain everything continuously. And explain Grealish and explain this and explain, do you see what I'm saying? Like, why is this team put together the way it is? Is it all down to Pep?
No, I mean, although I think he has a say in who they recruit.
He's a big say, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah. I don't know. I looked at Marmoush yesterday at the game, and... He's obviously still a young player. He's only 25, and even he's also young in terms of that top club kind of experience. But yesterday, and I know he plays on his own up front. There's no Haaland there, and he wants to do well. It's a massive game in Egypt. Like they were saying, that 100 million that were watching because it was Salah against Marmoush.
Isn't that literally the population of Egypt?
I don't know. They were saying no. There's more people than that in Egypt, but they were saying that it's the biggest game outside of the Egyptian country that people would watch, apparently. I don't know.
Zamalek against...
because it was the derby, Zamalek Al-Ahli on Saturday, and then on Sunday it was Salah v Marmoush, and that was absolutely drawing more people watching. So I know he wants to do well, but I watched him yesterday. He wants to go in every space, after every ball, in every channels, make the runs all the time, being on the ball all the time. And this is not how you play in a Pep Guardiola team. This is a very structured style of football. As we know, it's not for everyone, but it's a very structured, organized, maybe less now because of all their struggles. But this is not, he's a Bundesliga player playing in a Guardiola team that is everything but that. It's not, it's also well drilled, and he's not like that. So even that signing, we've said it from the beginning, okay, if you're playing in the front two, he minimize a little bit that aspect. But if he's on his own up front, he will do that, which is not at all the way the team plays. And yesterday, Foden never found his place. I mean, De Bruyne is sad to see, but De Bruyne is gone. Marmoush was all over the place because this is what the kind of thing he does. And this team, outside of Doku going one-on-one and Savinho going one-on-one with their fullbacks, has just no purpose.
I think, I could be totally wrong. I have no evidence of this. I am speculating here. I think they thought Haaland was going to be back, and they did not prepare for Marmoush playing. Because
maybe, yeah.
First of all, I also wonder, like, and again, and I hate the fact that teams aren't truthful about injuries, right? And they don't. I know, GDPR, what right do you have to know? Well, fans, entertainment business, it's part of the freaking narrative, right? You're happy to take money from TV and media, right, to pay these big wages, but then you don't give any information, or sometimes you give false information. I would love to know if Haaland has a knock, right? What kind of a knock is it that keeps him out for this long, right?
No, the weird thing is that he traveled to Madrid and he was on the bench.
That's weird, right?
Yeah,
and then
so
now
he goes from being on the bench, so clearly must otherwise.
Give some information.
But Pep said that after training on Saturday afternoon, he said they told me, so that's Pep talking. So they, I guess, is the medical staff. But Pep said they told me that he could not play tomorrow, so on Sunday, and we're hoping that he can be there on Wednesday. So he must have trained or do something, at least. He must have done something. And the medical staff looked at it and said it's too risky to even put him on the bench. I don't know.
But that what? Because he's gonna get his buttocks are gonna go and freeze up. I know. I mean, but that to me though supports the thing that they did not prepare. They prepared with Haaland, right? And then all of a sudden, if he did train on Saturday, after training, Pep's like, oh look, there's no Haaland. What am I gonna do? And I agree with you on Foden as well. Like, I have been critical of Foden because I hold him to high standard because he's a very talented player. He was player of the year last year, and obviously had his physical issues earlier this year. I felt for him a little bit because he really couldn't find the space. He was going into De Bruyne's spaces, and they were getting into each other's way, which shouldn't have happened. But then again, when De Bruyne was at his best, Foden was playing in a wider area. Yeah. Right? That balance, these are all things that Pep hasn't had a chance to work on. And I'm not saying it as an excuse to defend Pep, because obviously he doesn't need me to defend him. But I think it's really having an impact. It shows you the importance of actually working in training and working on patterns of play.
No, true, but it doesn't make sense. The team that he put up yesterday didn't make sense. It didn't make sense tactically. It didn't make sense. Sorry, in the personnel that he put on that pitch. To have De Bruyne and Foden like that in that formation was pointless.
What did make sense was Jeremy Doku. As you know, I'm a big Doku fan. I didn't understand when, I think this was his first start in like a month. I don't understand it. I don't understand why I think I look at the people who've played ahead of him in that wide area, different situations. If you add in both flanks, you've had Savinho play ahead of him, you've had Grealish play ahead of him. I'm like, seriously? Unless there's some kind of fitness issue, which means he can only sprint for 20 minutes and then after that he's done. Will you miss a trick with the use of Doku this season?
I don't know, because I still find him highly frustrating anyway. Because yesterday there's some really good moments where his dribbling is outstanding, especially against Trent, who is not, as we know, a very good one-on-one defender. But then after that, the last pass or the decision making is so wrong, and he should be so much more influential in games than what he is. So then you're thinking, but also, does he really fit the style that Pep wants? There's a couple of moments in the first half where he goes past Trent and then turns back round and go and play back the ball towards Ake, and you're like, well, hang on, why don't you keep going forward? Because that's not Pep's. Pep's is still slow and intricate. Let's keep the ball, let's move it, let's do 1,000 passes. And Doku is not that kind of player. And that's why I think at times he preferred Grealish for that control, Bernardo Silva for that control, more than for Doku's directness in a way. Although yesterday, he was the only one really that you could feel could create something.
I mean, again, if Doku doesn't fit your system, I go back to
Absolutely.
the signing of Doku. Doku's a relatively recent arrival, right?
Yeah.
Turning over to Liverpool, I think Liverpool looked tired. They certainly looked tired in the 2 games. That they didn't look tired against City, I think has to do with City. It has to do with the fact that City weren't able to jack up the tempo.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool, I'll say this now, I think Liverpool will have a dip in the coming weeks because I do think fatigue is catching up with them. I look at those 2 games before against Everton and against Villa, and to me that's more evidence. Well, we'll have a better idea against Newcastle unless Eddie Howe treats us to another one of his like 5-4-1s and but it doesn't matter. He's managed the fatigue. And I think this is why Slot has done such a phenomenal job this season. If his players are tired going forward now, you can manage it. I don't need to see Gravenberch all the time. I don't need to see, maybe Virgil gets a day off. Maybe Konate maybe needs one a little bit more, gets a day off, right?
Yeah, I did. To be fair, I watched the Everton game, the Villa game. I didn't think they were tired. I think they were 2 tough away games against Everton. They conceded in the 90th minute. They could easily have won that game. They didn't play great.
They didn't play well, and they didn't play well against Villa.
It's not because you don't play well that you are tired. You can play not well, but not being tired. Tired is not a consequence of you not playing well. And
I think they struggled to match. They took a lot out of them to match Everton's intensity, and against Villa, I think a lot of it wasn't some brilliant game plan from Unai Emery. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Emery, but Liverpool have much better players in almost every position. And Emery had a bunch of guys missing as well, of course, at the back and in the midfield. I think it was because that sharpness that they had, I didn't think was there in certain key positions. And I don't think it's necessarily there. And it was okay against Salah. They may have a dip. They're still going to run away with it. They may need to go and focus on the League Cup, focus on the Champions League. But to have got this far is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's great. They've been great, but I think at times they've been a bit laborious in some of their wins too. They haven't always played great and always been demolishing teams. But I was not worried at all by the 2 draws that they've had. And that game, okay, City were bad and City are just average now. And it was easy for Liverpool. But I just expected that kind of performance from them, and I would expect another good one against Newcastle, and then they have a weekend off because of the FA Cup. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm always so impressed by them for one reason or another. It's not always because it's great football, but it's just the efficiency. Yesterday, they were so efficient. They scored 2 goals on 3 shots in the first half. Even now, they start putting together combinations on corners that work. And then there's Mo Salah. And Mo Salah is right now, I love Kylian Mbappe so much. But Mo Salah is just the best player in the world, and there's just nobody else in his league.
Are you going to tell Ousmane Dembele that? Because
I love Ousmane Dembele
a week ago.
He's my guy.
Now it's Mo Salah.
That's what l'équipe said, not us. But Mo Salah, I mean, 27 Premier League matches, 25 goals, 16 assists. I think he's probably the most impressive, best ever Premier League season for one player individually, better than the Haaland season, better than the Shearer seasons, the Thierry Henry seasons. This is.
Didn't Cristiano have a season where he scored like 39 goals or something?
In the Premier League?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think in the Premier League, I've never seen anything like that. 25 and 16 in 27 is just unreal.